Good to go? Very good. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a public meeting concerning proposed zoning bylaw amendments pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. We have 3 files today. The first is C1323, Levi and Martha Bowman. And the second is C1423, Moses Bauman. And I guess we just have the 2 files. Is that right, Alicia? 2?
No, the third file is the OPA 18 from Grey County.
Okay. All right. So any person or public body is entitled to attend the public meeting and make written or oral submissions in support of or in opposition to any of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Written comments should be submitted to our clerk, Lindsay Green. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Southgate before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council of the Township of Southgate to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and in addition, they may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So the first zoning bylaw amendment is file number C13-23, Levi and Martha Bowman. Bowman. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is to allow for an on-farm diversified use being a dry industrial use. The dry industrial use will include, but is not limited to, woodworking, metalworking, and fabricating, as well as the manufacture of concrete and related supplies. The owners wish to add the dry industrial use shop to the list of permitted uses within a new agricultural exception zone. The shop, including office, lunchroom, and power room footprint, is proposed to be up to the maximum of 750 square meters. The outside storage will not exceed the maximum of 500 square meters. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to zone a portion of the subject lands from agricultural to the new agricultural exception zone to permit the dry industrial use. The location of the subject lands are Concession 9, Lot 35, Geographic Township of Proton, also known as 126521 Southgate Road 12. May I please have confirmation from the clerk that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, Chair Milne, proper notice was given in accordance with the Act. The sign was posted and notice was provided to the abutting residents within 120 meters.
Most excellent, thank you. I'll now ask our planner, David Smith, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. We received comments from the County of Grey and from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Neither the county nor the Conservation Authority have expressed any significant or concerns with the application. They submitted comments in terms of standard issues with MDS, size of unit, OFDU units, and always to have consideration for the environment and trees where possible. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Were there any written comments received by members or from members of the public?
Not to my knowledge.
To you, David. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, they're not in the package, and
okay.
And sorry, I've been remiss that the Township of Southgate Public Works did provide their comments too, and had no issues with the application.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from council at this time? Martin.
Can you hear me, Ron?
I can, so.
And everybody else, then I would assume. I only have a question that I was looking that struck me kind of funny. It might be later on in the site plan phase, but if you look at the map on page 17, or if you haven't looked at it, it's got the existing shed and shop, which says it'll be converted to ag shed, then the weeping tile below, and it says existing weeping bed for shop to be used. Well, the new shop is going to be quite a ways away, and the line has to go through the sawdust bin and the skid steer power room, I would assume, to reach that. That's quite a distance. Gray County on page 25 states general planning perspective safely provides water and sewage service. You know, that's a long length of pipe that could affect the septic, I would think. So maybe something to look at, as I said, at the site plan stage, but thought it'd be good to mention it now, unless that's an error
Well,
on the map, but
yeah, I would think that might be a building permit issue, but
Yeah.
I'm not certain. David, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Mr. Mayor. It's a building permit issue. The property does need to provide suitable septic and so on and so forth. And if the system is either not large enough, not in the right location, or any other particular issues, then they would have to address that with the building department. The property as a whole is, of course, large enough to handle this septic, even if it were to be relocated, or if a second one was determined to be required by the building department, separate and distinct from the house and other buildings.
Very good. Thank you, Martin.
yeah, well, it's just something to
Yep.
keep in mind.
Yeah, no, good question. Did someone else have their hand up? No? Okay, well, we'll have another chance towards the end here. I'll now ask if the applicant or agent is present. Please identify yourself by stating your name for the record, and would you like to make any representation on your application? Okay, not hearing any. Is there anyone present who'd like to make a submission in support of the application? Not hearing any. If there's any, is there anyone present who'd like to make a submission in opposition to the application? Okay, not hearing any. Are there any further questions or discussion from members of council? Not hearing any. That concludes that file for today. The second file is C14-23 Moses Bauman. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is to allow for an on-farm diversified use, being a dry industrial use. The dry industrial use will include, but is not limited to, woodworking, metalworking and fabricating, as well as the manufacture of concrete and related supplies. The owners wish to add the dry industrial use shop to the list of permitted uses within a new agricultural exception zone. The shop, including office, lunchroom, and power room footprint, is proposed to be up to the maximum of 750 meters squared. The outside storage will not exceed 500 meters squared. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to zone a portion of the subject lands from agricultural to a new agricultural exception zone to permit the dry industrial use. The location of the subject lands are concession 14, lot 21 in the geographic township of Proton, also known as 225814 Southgate Road 22. May I please have confirmation from the clerk that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, Mayor Milne, proper notice was given in accordance with the act. The sign was posted on the property and notice was sent to abutting property owners within 120 meters.
Most excellent. I'll now ask our planner, David Smith, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. And while you're at it, David, if there was any written comments from the public, please include that as well.
From your package, Mr. Mayor and Council, is that we received comments from the County of Gray, from the Township of Southgate Public Works Department, and from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. In general, none of the agencies commenting agencies had any issues, specific issues with the applications. The County of Gray and Saugeen Valley both point out to things to have continued concern or attention to, for example, MDS issues and D6 guidelines for separation between shops and the budding land uses. But overall, there have been no significant concerns raised by any of the agencies. And I have not seen any comments from the public submitted on paper or by email.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or discussion from council at this time? Not seeing any.
Brian.
Now, oh, Martin, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know too much about MDS and what have you, but on page 35 of this report, it says, in addition to the house with an MDS deficiency of 68 meters, the deficiency that should be self-explanatory. But then along the way, down the pages, I read it was 72 meters. And then on page 46, 47, I got it up on my screen here. There's two signs that I'm assuming is a yellow triangle with an exclamation mark, because there seems to be a deficiency in there. As I said, I thought MDSs were written in stone. It's got one 360, then 310. What I'm assuming is a yellow exclamation triangle. And then the one below, distance from manure storage is 424, 365 with that. I don't know what that means. If anybody could explain that. I thought, as I said, MDS was written in stone. It had to be a certain length, no deficiencies. You're a farmer. You might be able to explain it better to me, Brian.
No, I can't.
No. Okay.
There's a lot of numbers and stuff in there, but I
Yeah.
see Councillor DeBreen has her hand up, but I'll maybe ask unless, have you got an explanation there, Councillor DeBreen? Or
I was actually asking for the point of privilege. We don't all download the PDF, so page 35 or 47 doesn't mean anything. If Councillor Shipston could refer us to the document that he's referring to, either it's the application or the other reports, then we could, zoom in on what he's referring to. I did see some of what he was referring to in the application. I just thought it would be easier to follow along. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I am using my own computer showing all that, so I guess I am at an advantage. No, it's in the report and it says Ontario Agri-Suite, and then it's got general information about the MDS. And as I said, going down the page, I'm assuming they're yellow triangles with an exclamation mark and different numbers there. I don't know if that's what's meant by the deficiency. As I said, I always thought the MDS over the last few years when we talked, it's always been this, and you can only have this. And I just wonder what the different numbers meant. That's all.
well, Madam Clerk, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
It's the last two pages of the application, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. So maybe I'll ask our planner, David, do you want to shed some light on that, please?
Right. So we're going to look at MDS separate and distinct from this application, because the application is for the on-farm diversified use, is my understanding. MDS is not applying to the on-farm diversified use. That is mentioned in the County of Grey letter, that they are not applied in that particular sense of the word, MDS1 or MDS2. The MDS1 is the barns, the MDS2 is the houses. And here we're talking about a new shed or agriculture building for woodworking or whatever it is. So why it was included in the application form, I can't exactly tell you why, because as far as I can tell, it isn't applicable to their application. Going back to your general question, why a whole bunch of numbers? Again, I didn't actually look at it to see why, maybe because it wasn't part of my initial look at this application in particular. So unfortunately, I can't give you a specific answer as to why numbers would be different. I would not hesitate to guess that your initial thinking is that if it's all the same number of animals and the same software and the et cetera, the same type of manure storage, that they should all come out the same. Yeah, that would be my gut feeling too. But here in particular for the application, the zoning in front of you, I don't believe it has a bearing to the report.
So there you go, Madam Clerk.
I wonder, our agent Solomon is on the line. I wonder if he could maybe shed some light if he is there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, this application is for the on-farm diversified use, and I was talking to Clinton Stretwick because the owner wants to build a new house. So we were talking about a minor variance maybe because of the MDS deficiency. So Clinton told me that we can do it all with one zoning bylaw amendment instead of doing a zoning bylaw amendment and a minor variance. But the house with the MDS deficiency is just a rebuild. So it's in addition to the existing, the one part is going to be taken down and rebuilt. And it's going to be a little bigger than the old one, so it'll be maybe a meter or two closer than the existing one, but other than that, it's just a rebuild.
Right, so the house already exists on the property.
Yes, it does. But the one portion is too old, so they want to take it down and
Yep.
rebuild it.
Yeah, and you're allowed to do that. Okay, is that sufficient, Martin? Okay, good, thank you. So now I'll ask if the applicant or agent is present. Please identify yourself by stating your name for the record, and would you like to make any representation on your application?
It's Solomon Martin, yes. I don't have anything else to say, no.
Very good, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone present who'd like to make a submission in support of this application? Not hearing anyone, I'll ask if there's anyone present who'd like to make a submission in opposition to this application. Okay, any further questions or discussion from council members? Barb?
Thank you, Mayor Milne, and through you. I was just wondering if this, once this on-farm diversified use is constructed and operational, will the beef farming, because it is supposed to be to supplement the farming income, correct? So perhaps the agent can just give us some assurance that the actual farm.
Solomon, are you there? Do you want to comment on
Yes,
that question?
I'm here, but I didn't hear Barbara very clear. She was cutting out there, so I didn't understand what she was saying.
I think the gist of the question was, as in general, the additional farm use is supposed to be in a supplement to the farm income. Is that going to be the case in this situation?
Yes, there's gonna be a beef barn and a cash crop farm, and this
Very
will
good.
just be a supplement, yes.
Okay, did I summarize that correctly, Barb?
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion from council? Okay, not seeing any. I'll complete that file for
Follow
today
up?
and, oh, go ahead, Barb. Sorry. Yep.
Sorry, through you, just to clarify, it was Solomon mentioned that it was going to be beef farming and cash crops. So beef will be hired out to another service provider. It won't be actually being done by the property owner. Is that how that works?
I'm
What does
not really-
cash crop?
I'm not
The
really sure.
owner
what-
is going, the owner is going to use the barn, yes. And the land will be cropped, and it won't exactly be cash cropping. The crop will go into the silos. You can see there's a silo shown at the side of the
Okay.
barn.
Okay. Madam Clerk, you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to add there? No?
No,
Okay.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. All right, that concludes that file for today. Third and final file today is the Grey County OPA 18, NB Martin Manufacturing Incorporated. The purpose and effect of the official plan amendment to both the county and local official plans is required to permit an on-farm diversified use with a combined area of 2,000 square meters on an undersized property, that being 10 hectares, designated agricultural. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will rezone the subject lands from agricultural to agricultural with exception that would have the effect of permitting a small-scale industrial use on site. An exception is also required for the minimum front yard setback for small-scale commercial/industrial buildings from 20 meters to 15.28 meters. The location of the subject lands are concession 16, part lots 27, geographic township of Proton, also known as 192748 Southgate Side Road 19. May I please have confirmation from the County of Grey Senior Planner, Stephanie Lacey Avon, that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act. And I should welcome Stephanie to our meeting. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, confirmation that proper notice was given through paper to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject site, as well as the notice of the proposal was placed on the subject property in accordance to the Planning Act.
Most excellent. I'll now ask for the County of Gray Senior Planner Stephanie Lacey Avon to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. And if there were any written comments received, you could include those as well, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are only 2 comments received and both had no objections. There was one from the Historic Saugeen Métis as well as Enbridge Gas, and there were no comments received from members of the public.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or discussion from council members at this time? Barbara. And then Martin.
Thank you, and welcome, Stephanie. Nice to see you. So I'm looking at the package in our eScribe, and it would appear that the comments from, or at least I can't find them, from the Métis are not included on our package. I would imagine they're included on our website, the comments that you referred to. Or am I on the wrong file? 2.3, correct? Mayor Milne?
Yeah, you're correct, Barb. I think
yes.
there are 2 comments that are on the agenda from Saugeen Valley and our Public Works Department. So I'm wondering if there was just a miscommunication with us in the county with what comments. But we'll
Okay,
make sure that both websites have all the comments.
Thank you. So through you, my question is to Stephanie. Back earlier this year, the county council saw fit to remove the reduction in size to allow on-farm diversified uses on anything less than 20 hectares from an an official plan amendment. That county council felt that the rules that are currently in place were sufficient. This now opens the door for each application to come before county and council to consider them individually. However, on-farm shops, the roads in Southgate are already experiencing deterioration, and we are finding we need to upgrade our roads to 90 mil to accommodate the truck traffic as well as the additional farming traffic that comes to these sites and the additional traffic in between the shops. I see this as we have an influx. We had 2 files before us for on-farm diversified uses. We have them almost every month, opening the door to making the farm size smaller to 10 hectares, which is 50% of the bare minimum, I see this as opening up Pandora's box and a floodgate of other applications and more shops, so that we not just have industrial shops on farm, but industrial parkways. Through you to Stephanie, what rules or what obligations could be imposed on a landowner to accommodate or make up for the wear and tear on our roads, because development should pay for development and the taxpayer should not have to be on the hook for the resulting effects. I still have concerns about making these shops on smaller lots. We're just going to have shop after shop after shop. Thank you.
Stephanie, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if it would be helpful if we are able to just go over the brief presentation that was put together as well as the consultants, and then we can entertain comments and discussion after.
Absolutely.
Christine, I believe you're on the line. There you are. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Christine. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon. Do you want me to move forward now?
Sure, please.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, Your Worship, Council and staff. I do have a brief presentation. I'm not sure, is staff, Lindsay, are you going to put that up or do you want me to share the
I
screen?
think you should be able to share your screen, Christine. Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, Christine should have the ability to share.
We're just like that in Southgate. We allow everybody to share.
Okay. It's just saying I'm disabled from sharing.
Maybe Alicia, do you want to pull it up?
The settings have been updated. You should be able to share now, Christine.
Got it. Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, thanks. Apologies. I'm going to leave the screen like this. Otherwise I lose.
No worries.
You guys. Okay.
No worries.
Thank you. So, so the property is 192748 Southgate Side Road, Township of Southgate. And the site is located on the west side of Southgate Side Road 19. The property has a lot area of 10 hectares and a lot frontage of 238 meters onto Southgate Side Road 19. The parcel is an agricultural parcel of land. It has a single detached residence, as well as an accessory structure and a barn. There is an existing home occupation that is located in an accessory structure and is proposed to be discontinued should this application be approved. The site does include 8 hectares of tillable lands, and there are livestock units within the barn, and the lands are partially regulated by the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. So I'm not going to go through the purpose and effect. I believe the council members will have this in front of them, but the county OP and the local OP are similarly worded in order to permit the OFDU on an undersized lot. And with respect to the zoning bylaw, similarly, it would propose to include an additional permitted use, being the small scale industrial shop, and exception for a minimum front yard setback reduction from 20 meters to 15.28 meters, which simply allows the proposed building to be closer to the front lot line and maintaining the 8 hectares of agricultural lands intact. So with respect to the county official plan policies, section 5.2.2 provides agricultural development policies that support strategies for encouraging young farmers, farm succession planning, slowly the decline in the number of farms, and growing agricultural related spin-off opportunities. The county official plan identifies policies that protect and improve economic development and agriculture by promoting on-farm diversification. On-farm diversified uses must be secondary to the farming operation, which is determined by scale and size of the OFDU proposed. The proposed on-farm diversified use is 2,000 square meters in area with respect to the zoned area, which includes all buildings and the outdoor storage areas associated with the use. And this represents 2% of the total land area of the property. The 8 hectares of cultivated land will be retained. And while the OFDU will be secondary to the ag operation, it also provides the owner with a secondary source of income, which is critical on these smaller parcels of land. The proposals for OFDUs must demonstrate several criteria that were addressed within the planning report. There are no site, so specifically those criteria include a number of items, and I'll just quickly go through them. That there are no off-site adverse impacts. So with respect to MDS has been calculated and provided and is met. The D6 guidelines for a class 1 industrial use are met, and that there are no anticipated impacts to surrounding agricultural lands. The proposed use can be sustained by local service levels and infrastructure. The lands are on well and septic, are located on an open and maintained road, and truck traffic is expected to be limited. The building code would be met at the time of the building permit, of course. And the scale of the operation, it is secondary to an active agricultural use. The total area of the OFDU is 2,000 square meters, so meeting the 2% of the land requirement. And again, the importance of the use being a secondary income stream for the farmer while maintaining the site in agricultural production. rather than it becoming an oversized estate size property. Timing and duration does not hinder agricultural operations. There's no timing issues. The agricultural operations will continue, and there's no anticipated impact. And lastly, that on-site parking can be accommodated, and the site plan provided does include on-site parking. With respect to the Township of Southgate official plan, section 5412 provides policies for 5412 provides policies with respect to OFDUs within the agricultural land use. And so an on-farm diversified use shall not occupy any more land than the lesser of 2% of the lot area to a max of 8,000 square meters. And so the proposed use would be within the 2,000 square meters or 2%. And the associated buildings shall not occupy 20% of the land devoted to the OFDU. And in this case, that calculates out to approximately 14.5. The owner is a bona fide farmer, and we provided a farm number as part of the submission. The owner currently does farm the land and also has meat goats on the property, which is expected to continue. And the proposed use is within close proximity to the existing structures, including the barn and house on the property. And no portion of the OFDU is located within 150 meters of a sensitive receptor. With respect to agricultural impact, the 8 hectares of tillable land has remained relatively unchanged since 2010. The area proposed for the on-farm diversified use is not currently within agricultural production. It's located close to the road, and that's hence the request for the reduction in the front yard setback. With respect to natural heritage features, any setbacks are met, and we have received favorable comments from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and that there are smaller farm parcels that are located directly to the north, which do not appear to have tillable acreages within them. And lastly, that the MDS is met. These are just a couple of site photos taken from Southgate Side Road 19. The lands are an operating farm parcel with an existing barn and 8 hectares of cash crop, and there are animal units on the property. So just prior to providing my conclusion, I just wanted to speak about comments made at County Council at the County of Grey Committee of the Whole meeting on September 14th, where the merit report was provided by staff with regard to the county official plan amendment. There were comments raised that are common comments that we hear from councillors, and I just wanted to take a moment to speak on them. Comments were received on the ability of landowners to apply for amendments to an official plan, and also the idea about being sort of one-offed. I understand the comment was made in light of the recent official plan amendment 11, where staff and council put considerable time into the review. However, I think it is worth noting that landowners do have the ability to apply for an official plan amendment or zoning bylaw amendment following a overall official plan. As a consultant, we do go through pre-consultation. We put together complete submissions and submit an amendment request based on the requirements provided by staff. Planning applications do not set precedents and are heard before councils on the merits of the application before them. Comments were received on rural areas being industrialized, and the tests of a planning application are based on consistency with the provincial policy statement and conformity with the relevant official plans as applied for. I raise this because the provincial policy statement is an important document in the discussion around OFDUs. Section 2.3.3 of the PPS, which is the permitted uses section, permits OFDUs and provides that proposed agricultural related uses and on-farm diversified uses shall be compatible with and shall not hinder surrounding agricultural operations. Criteria for these uses may be based on guidelines developed by the province or municipal approaches. The PPS directs development policies for OFDUs to the guidelines on permitted uses in the prime agricultural areas. And so the guidelines for permitted uses have identified specific criteria related to OFDUs. it comes down to three criteria. Number one, that it be located on a farm. Number two, that it be secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property. And three, that the area is limited. And speaking to that, of the 2% and maximum size areas. Lastly, there was a reference about OFDUs industrializing the rural areas, and that perhaps OFDUs, or as industrial uses, are perhaps more appropriately located within settlement areas. Clearly, PPS permits agricultural related uses as well as on-farm diversified uses. And further, the guidelines do include additional direction for communities that rely on horse-drawn vehicles for transportation. The proponents are part of a community that relies on horse-drawn vehicles for transportation, which reduces the service areas with respect to being located within their community and located in close proximity to their residences. And lastly, for this community, the shops being located in a settlement area are not conducive to their way of life, including farming as a main source of their income and their food production, proximity to their residences, and the keeping of horses, which are their mode of transportation. And with respect to the horses and the use of the horses within the settlement areas brings a whole nother discussion that I'll not go into at the moment, but is something worth some discussion. So I'll just provide my conclusion that the applications, in my opinion, are in keeping with the Planning Act and are consistent with PPS, that the applications conform to the County of Grey official plan as amended or as applied for, and the Township of Southgate official plan as applied for. And the application generally complies with the Township of Southgate zoning bylaw 19-2002 as applied for. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Christine, for those comments. Stephanie, do you have anything further to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did put together a bit of a presentation, but I don't want to take up everyone's time going over what I've put together because it is much of a duplication of what Christine Loft has put together. Just wanted to share in terms of, I can share a quick slide that shows you the process and what stage we are in the process, which might be helpful. Sorry for
please do
this group. So this here just demonstrates at what stage we're at in processing these applications. So currently we're here at the public meeting. No formal planning recommendation has put together at this point, but we are then following the public meeting, we'll review the comments received and put together a recommendation report, which will then be brought forward to County Council. However, we would be looking for general comments either in support or not in support from the local township prior to proceeding with that next step.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. So I'll go back then to, are there any further questions or discussion from council members? Martin, did you have your hand up before?
I will now.
Well, Barb has her hand up first, so I'll let Barb go first.
Yeah, no, let Barb go.
Barb's now saying no.
Actually, Martin did have his hand up prior, and I was getting into the queue because Monica and Martin had their hands up. So I was just putting, but I can go if you wish. It's at your will, Chair Mill.
Go ahead, Barb. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So thank you, Christine, for the presentation. In your presentation, you refer to natural heritage being would be an SVCA commenting, but that was removed as a result of Bill 23, where they're no longer allowed to comment on natural heritage, and therefore will an environmental impact study be forthcoming with regard to the significant woodlots and wetlands in the area? It does refer to that in your presentation.
Christine.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Dobrin. No environmental impact study was required. We're actually outside of any setbacks that would trigger an environmental impact study. The county and the municipality did circulate the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, so I'm not sure if it was outside of the timing when the county ecologists were reviewing the applications, I would suspect, yeah. So we have received favorable comments. I'm not sure if the county's internal staff are reviewing as well, but there was no requirement, and we are outside of the setbacks with respect to the natural heritage features, which are located to the east of the site and not on the property.
Thank you. Follow up, sir.
Go ahead.
So I do agree with you that, on-farm diversified uses are one of the first criteria is that they be located on farm. So locating them into an industrial park is not conducive to their way of life or to it being on farm. So that I understand. And you've answered my EIS. You did mention that the county allows for 2,000 square meters in a structure, so an on-farm diversified use of up to 2,000 square meters. This would not necessarily permit a structure or an actual shop being 2,000 square meters when Southgate's is 750 square meters maximum.
Christine?
And perhaps I misunderstood the reference when you were talking about the square meters.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, the reference is actually to the zoned area, not to the building area.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Martin, and then Monica.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I was just going to comment on something that Councillor DeBreen said about, is this going to set a precedent for Southgate alone? Like if the county wants to do it, that's fine, but this is our OP. And we know pretty well what's going on in the township, and have something like 10 hectares. That's only not even 25 acres, 24.7. And he's farming 8. I just find it's too small. And what happens if, as Barb mentioned, this becomes just the start of something new, where it does set a precedent, where it's going to be happening every month, like the normal on farm. It just seems, to me anyway, I look few red flags popping up. Because of the size, it sets in the report, I think of Lofts, Christine's, it says the size of development, because of size, the 10 hectares will encroach the screening area. So it is going into the SPCA, but the screening area is not that crucial, I don't think, but still 30 meters from actual edge. So it does, being the size of the it does affect all kinds of things. And last but not least, we've heard a lot of percentages here. We've heard a lot of numbers. And the conclusion of Christine's really good presentation says the application generally complies with the Township of Southgate zoning bylaw. Well, every time we read an application or a report from whether it be Grey County, SVCA, there's no generally. It does or doesn't. Generally implies that there's still things vague with it. I'm kind of keen on words. Grey County usually says this does conform with policies. SPCA, yes, this conforms with this policy. Generally complies. That just gives me another red flag about allowing anything below 20 to have this. So comments, I guess, and there could be questions from that, but yeah, a couple of red flags for me anyway.
Thank you, Martin. Christine, do you want to respond?
Sure. Through the chair to the councillor. In my opinion, the generally is actually a standard phrase that I use, because if it completely conformed, I wouldn't be before you asking for an amendment. So, it's, and so I think when staff perhaps use that word, it's in a frame where either the amendment's been supported, and so it is in place. So that's really the gist of the generally is, if it fully conformed, we would not be applying. We would not have an amendment application before you.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Stephanie, do you want to jump in there or no? You good so far? You're good? Okay. Monica, please.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to confirm you can hear me.
Yep, we can. I can.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to echo Deputy Mayor and Councillor Martin's sentiments, they were actually the 2 points that I was making are going to be bringing up. But just to further to those points, just regarding traffic and vehicular permits, when we are increasing the introduction of industrial activities, it is likely to result in increased vehicular traffic. Just want to make sure that we are respecting the integrity of the horse and carriage and the other vehicles when these extra wide permits that may be needed that will be associated to having more industrialized roads. One, I'm not sure if that was already kind of mentioned regarding the permits that would be needed to be transporting the industrialized products or byproducts. And then also, the cultural preservation, although that may not be something that's needed right now due to Bill 23, that if I heard correctly, it's just something to kind of keep in mind as well. So what we hear all the time is that roads are expensive, if that's not the number one most expensive for any municipality, with the increase of needing the permits and road maintenance, and then more requests. This is something that we are definitely possibly needing to embark on a comprehensive evaluation and consultation process. I know that we're still early, as was shown, I think, by Christine or Stephanie, I forget, but in the presentation of what stage we're at, I think that we all have a general consensus that these particular matters need to have a little bit more clarity and understanding of where we're going with all of this.
Thank you, Monica. I see Stephanie has her hand up. Stephanie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to circle back with some of Deputy Mayor's comments earlier on, as well as just in response to the road wear and tear. There was that question around what are some of the options available to the township in terms of collecting funds that would help with the upgrade of the roads. So through that, the development charges bylaw would speak to what is permitted in terms of collection when development takes place, in terms of the fees, and those fees typically are used for this type of purpose. So the effect of this development could potentially increase the wear and tear on a road, and those development charges would then filter through in helping with the upkeep of the road. An additional thought that I have, I guess just speaking more broadly and potentially just an extension from this file, but when thinking about when we have aggregate and pit operation proposals, they typically provide a bit more of a review when it comes to the haul routes that are being proposed. And recognizing the township has quite a few smaller scale operations, but the road traffic may be fairly significant in some cases, moderate in others, but that might be something the township could explore in terms of understanding where these trucks are going, and maybe look at filtering them onto select roadways such that you aren't having to expand road upgrades to all roads, for example, but just thinking about it a bit more strategically. So just wanted to offer those comments at this point.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any further questions or discussion from council at this point? There'll be another opportunity shortly.
Mayor Mill, Dave
Go ahead.
has his hand up a while.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Joan.
Dave has his hand up. Mr. Smith has his hand up quite a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see David, so I wasn't aware of that. So David, go ahead.
I'm here.
Okay, I knew you were there, but I don't see your hand, so carry on.
Thank you, Councillor Joan. Yeah, I guess by happenstance, in some respects, you end up with a piece of property that's designated agriculture, and across the road is a property, not in this particular case, designated rural. Or around the corner, if you take a look at the township's map and the county's map, and we differentiate by saying, oh, it's rural, we don't have these limitations on size. And just by happenstance, you can go buy that other property and find out it's got corn on it, it's got beef on it, it's farmed. So by happenstance, this one happens to be agriculture and gets caught up in the policy that says minimum size. If it happened to be 2 concessions over or 2 side roads over, it might fall into the rural, and we wouldn't even necessarily be here on the same kind of agriculture, if I can put it that way, in general. So that I like to just to point out about just pure happenstance of being on the landscape and how these policies are working out. If you also take a look at the township zoning bylaw, this property is zoned A1. Within the A1 zone, permitted uses include home industry as of right. For every property zoned A1, as long as they can meet the specific requirements of the A1 zone. And within that A1 zone, you can have 1,076 square feet of not office space, of workshop space, including plumbing shops, metalworking shops, welding shops, et cetera, et cetera. We allow that as a right on every A1 property. The OFDUs are kind of I guess you could say, bonus on top of that in terms of size, as we can see from our policy, but we do permit pretty much for every farmer or any farm property out there, industrial home industry operations, which could come with and do come with at times truck traffic and other things that come along with it. So when we begin to take a look and to isolate property of this particular size, when they can, in some respects, go, okay, let's see if it doesn't happen, we can do a home industry. And off we go. So just those, I think, particular things to recognize that are already in existence within the township zoning bylaw and within the official plan as of right. And just to go back, Saugeen Valley's comment says that consistency with section 3.1 of the natural heritage policies has been demonstrated in their letter that's in council's package, and also consistency with the Grey County OP and the Township of Southgate policies for natural hazards has also been demonstrated. That is separate and distinct from natural heritage issues in general. So thanks.
Thank you, David. Did I see someone else's hand up? Anybody else have a question? Monica, go ahead.
I just briefly, so thank you, David, for that. So just to put it out there, I'm not sure if this is something that would come later, but will we have a look at if extra wide and heavy vehicles will be increased in these areas and what routes will be used? That's a good suggestion that someone had made earlier. Just looking at the aesthetics and safety of the roads, increased costs, and more requests coming in, because these are all very valid points, but these are also very important concerns. So I'm not sure if that's something that anyone could speak to a little bit more, or if that would be something later on as the study continues.
In general, I certainly can't speak for the manager of Public Works that we don't have the weight of truck traffic for these kind of operations that we do for aggregate. That is one of the biggest things, and in general, depending on the size of the pit and aggregate operation, the number of trucks per day, et cetera, which drives a lot of the other issues in community regarding aggregate operations in particular. We don't look at farming operations that have large volumes of animals in and out, or crop and so on and so forth, or mud on roadway in that regard. So when the scale of the size of the operation is limited in terms of square footage like we have here, we don't have a industrial operation like we would in, for example, Eco Park. That would drive, I think, in my opinion, the need for truck traffic assessments. But I would certainly say that it's something that if the manager of Public Works, begins to find as an issue, that'd be raised there.
Very good. Thank you, David. Okay. So I'll now ask if the applicant or agent is present, if they wish to identify themselves by stating their name for the record. Would you like to make any representation on your application? I guess, Christine, you're the applicant. Did you have anything further?
No, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Is there anyone present who'd like to make a submission in support of this application? Is there anyone present who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application? Okay, council, are there any further questions or discussion? Not seeing any. That concludes our public meeting today. So I'll ask for an adjournment. Someone care to move that? Monica and Barb, all those in favor? That is carried. It is 1:55 and we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Mr. Mayor, if I may take a moment.
Yes, sir.
I may have to end this meeting and then you'll have to set up another meeting. This is currently being
Okay.
live
Would
streamed.
a phone call work, David?
Sure.
Okay, I'll give your, do you have my number?
No. Go
All
ahead.
right,
give it.
I'll call you.